my question is I have been running into the mortally wounded men, and it's like I'm been told that, well, I'm supposed to help them, but I'm tired of that, and I want to raise my vibration to bring in the spirituality.
Right.
I want to know what is the high spiritual side of that, because I've been getting the low side when it comes to attracting partners.
Right.
And I, get into this illusion that, oh, he's the one, only to find out that in the beginning it's like I really know he's not, but I want him to be because I'm tired of waiting on a relationship, and then I find out that they're just mortally wounded. And is Chiron attracting that, or, what does it mean?
Absolutely. Chiron is
crazy people that don't look like they're crazy, but they're crazy.
Right. Well, that's look, you've got Mars and Virgo, right in your ascendant, and Mars and Virgo is all about fixing things. It's about being efficient. It's about getting things done. It's about working. Mars, Virgo is service, right? I mean, that's what we associate with Virgo is this quality of service, and Mars is will, it's action, and it's getting things done, and so you need a mission in life. That really you do. You need a mission in life with Mars and Virgo on your ascendant, but and your Mars opposes Chiron and Pisces. So you've attached your Mars and Virgo to your Chiron. So your mission has been to fix these men who are spiritually wounded and emotionally wounded. And obviously you're tired of that. And how do you change it? Well, what you do is you redirect the energy of Mars. Instead of having Chiron be the anchor and having to pull Mars towards it, you turn Mars around, and Mars is now the boat pulling Chiron. So I think the best thing for you, Lenise, to deal with this is to not focus on the relationships and to not focus on the men, and that might be lonely for you. But if you can direct your Mars energy in Virgo out through the first house and out through the ascendant, and be engaged in service and the community and helping and really raising the vibration of other people around you without having to tend to these poor wounded men, and their shattered psyches and all that stuff. What will happen is that naturally people will gravitate to you that will be closer to what you're feeling and what you want to aspire towards. Now, you can't disregard Chiron, though, right there at the edge of the 6th and the 7th. I mean, I think it's really there for a reason. It's not. I mean, you can say to yourself, well, it's there for me to kind of brush up against and push off against and deal with and to be discerning with, and that all that stuff is real. But at the same time, there's like a gift there with Chiron in the 6th, and it may not necessarily be about healing men. But it could really be about being engaged in the art of kind of deep, spiritual, compassionate service towards others. Because again, it starts in the 6th, moves to the 7th. For me personally, I would take and try to move the energy or keep the energy in the 6th, and have it to be towards people that are less fortunate than you, whether it's children, whether it's the homeless, whether it's people that are suffering from debilitating physical conditions. This is a classic example of you being able to line your energy up with an aspect of Chiron that would be working for you rather than working against you. Now, you're going to be going through your Chiron return. And my sense, Lenise, is that when you hit your Chiron return, when Chiron finally touches your 6th, your Chiron on your 6th, and then moves into your 7th, my sense is that you will be ready to have a relationship that will be, I would say, more of the redemptive aspect of Chiron. And now what we're talking about would be two people that would be working together to help alleviate the suffering of others. Because if you could work on that energy and put your energy out there into the world, and you're helping and you're serving, and people around you are really just, benefiting from this Mars and Virgo you've got in the first, and really, Lanice, you've got a contract to serve and help people with Chiron on the 6th and the 7th in Pisces. You can't get away from that. You have a contract to do that in this lifetime. But it would be a lot easier for you if you had somebody you could do it with. It would be a lot more rewarding if there was somebody who could be with you step for step and working with you and loving your work together. It would be kind of like the equivalent of having a ministry with somebody else, like a co-ministry. And I think ultimately that's the kind of relationship that you will be gravitating towards and will be the most spiritually fulfilling for you, because now you don't have to do all the work by yourself. Now you don't have to do the heavy lifting. And there's somebody else who would be just as invested in bringing your compassion and your love and your ability to serve and make life better for others. I mean, that is truly the greatest gift, is to be able to serve in that way and in a very enlightened and conscious fashion. And that's why you're here. So here's my take. My take is that once Chiron, and you may have to go through, one more toad with a wart on him. You might, okay? But
I hope once the last one, I'm scraping him off the bottom of my feet as we speak.
Yeah, so you'll have to go through that. But I'm telling you, once you go through that Chiron return is very liberating. It's a very liberating aspect. And I'll tell you from my own perspective, the day Chiron hit my natal Chiron, the day my father died. My father died on my Chiron return, which was 2 years ago. And I'll tell you, I love my father. My father, to me, was he was one of the great people, the great unknown people in history for me. And my father, when he passed away, I felt liberated because he was a huge personality. And I felt a little suffocated by him at times. And now I don't. Now I have a lot more of a sense of freedom. I don't feel like there's somebody judging me all the time, which I felt like quite often he did. He had Moon and Virgo.
Wow.
So what I'm sharing with you.
When will that hit for me, Robert?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
When will the Chiron
return for you? Well, let's check it out. Let's go into the chart here. My screen got all messed up all of a sudden. Hold on. So I got to reorient myself to my screen. By the way, when you go through your Chiron return, it's going to be trining your natal Neptune. That's very powerful. That is, to me, that's a very deep, very cleansing, very healing spiritual rebirth and sense of freedom. I think that's a great aspect for you.
I deserve it. I am looking forward to it.
I think you deserve it.
You are so validating. Yesterday, I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I had these thoughts that you're mentioning now that I want to help, but I don't feel that I'm helping now. I'm with people, I'm working with people, but it's really not where I'm supposed to be. And that's becoming very, very painful because I'm not getting anything out of it. I feel like I'm not really doing what I'm supposed to do, and I feel like it's time out for wasting time and wasting my love and giving of myself somewhere where it's just being squandered in my work and in relationship. Yeah,
I agree. That is a very kind of Sagittarian, come to Jesus kind of moment, I think that your Chiron return happens in 2014, by the way. So it sounds like it's a long ways off, and then you're going to have to, wait until then. I don't look at astrology like that, because you'll have other transits along the way that will give you some insights and will give you some momentum and will give you a sense of real faith along the way. So it's March. 14 degrees is when it hits your natal Chiron. And so at that time, it's March, what is that? So on the 13th of March, so the sun will be in Pisces. The sun will be in your 7th house. That's great. So, we're talking again.
I'm feeling that because I'm just asking God, what? What must I do? And I know what I'm doing is not it, but, some days, it's good. And then some days I just feel like, why am I here? And why am I doing what I'm doing? And why am I alone?
Well, Lenise, I think we're all asking ourselves those questions because these are challenging times. I mean, how we related to the world 20 years ago is very different to how we are relating to the world now. I mean, let's go back in time just for a moment. 20 years ago would have been 1991. Let's fast forward. Let's make it say 1994. Let's go to 1994. 1994 was the Clinton era, and there was more of a sense of optimism now that we had rid ourselves of George W. Bush, and the economy was on the rise. The Federal Reserve had interest rates were much lower. There was a lot of money that was being spent in the rise of the tech sector. People were happier. They were more optimistic. Now, on the other hand, there was tons of conspicuous consumption. People were into McMansions. There was, we were ramping up to Glass-Steagall and everybody, buying homes with absolutely zero oversight. And that was the shadow of that. But really, it was in some ways closer to the linear world that we had been living in. We are living in a nonlinear world now. We are living in a world that is fragmented and multiversal because of what happened on 9/11/2001 and what's happened to the economy since then, and where we're all trying to kind of like find out where we fit now. Most people walk around feeling like, well, when is the next shoe going to fall? Most people are sitting around like with a sense of dread. Because they're trying to figure out the world, and the world is, trust me, the world cannot be figured out at this point. It is far too fractal and random. I mean, you can figure it out if you want to, but it's going to take you into some really dark places. So what we have to do is we have to find meaning in our lives based on where we are right now and how our souls really want to breathe through us and into our physical incarnation, so that we can have an expression that gives us a sense of purpose in our lives. And during this time when things that we used to hold dear and which meant a lot to us are fading away, we have to redefine what's important. And I think that's what you're in the process of.
Exactly. Everything that you're saying is so on point. Spirit has, said all these things to me. And then, I have these days where I'm okay, and yesterday was one of those days where it was like, really, why am I here and what am I going to do? Because I can't go on like this.
Right. Well, I think you have to figure out what's important to you. Now, I know that little boy, that little grandson is important to you.
Yeah. And so, you know what? I'm doing that too. Spirit told me, figure out what is important and only deal with that.
Good.
Focus on it.
Good. You're on it. Lenise, you're on it. You're so on it. And, all you got to do is...
You're on it. We're both on it, and you are just so connected to me. And I want to say right now, I love you, and I thank God for having you in my life.
Oh, well, thank you. And I love you, too. And I want to thank you for being in my life, even though we've never met in physical. Spiritually, we're very connected, and you're.
I would know you. I could pull you out of a crowd.
And you're an absolute jewel to have on my show. So, I'll put you back on hold, let you listen.
Hey, thanks, and I can't wait to get my report.
Keep doing your thing.
Such an asset to my life. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, take care now.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.